55 episodes deep on this thing, just the Start the Conversation podcast. I was just thinking, I said 55. That means that we can get into 55 and over, right? Maybe a nice little HOA.
We should get some sort of benefit for that.
That's good. We should work on that.
Free ice cream.
You work there. You send the email.
Okay.
I'm with Amie, Alanson, Dundon from St. Luke's Penn Foundation. You can find this podcast at stlukespennfoundation.org or wherever you get your podcasts. My name is Kevin Crockett. Happy to be back with you for another episode of this thing called the Just Start the Conversation podcast. Amie, how are we today? How are things? It's a beautiful day in the Lehigh Valley. We were just talking about how there's a beautiful day to catch a ball game. Something going on right now, right? Good day to get
it's
out.
nice. It's beautiful out. I don't know when people may end up listening to this, but just the day we're recording, it's a beautiful sunny day, I think, which is really fitting for today's conversation.
I would agree with that. And so we're going to jump right in. It's fascinating. We kind of started with this thing called the Just Start the Conversation podcast. And sometimes it feels like maybe there's no perfect way to start. And this is something that we've breached on this show many a times, whatever the conversation might be, exactly where you're going. I want to introduce our guest today, Nancy Salamon. I've gotten to know Nancy for about 10 minutes. She's delightful. She's wonderful. Nancy, first of all, I want to say thank you so much for joining us, for trusting us with your story, for letting us get to know a little bit about you and your family. So thank you for being here with us today. We certainly do appreciate that.
Of course, it's my honor. Thank you.
Absolutely. Okay, so I'm going to let you go ahead and tell us a little bit of your story and what feels most important for people to understand about the story.
Okay. Well, my name is Nancy Salamon, and I am a pretty typical person. I am happily married. I have 3 really good kids, actually. I have Mandy.
Actually, she says.
I know, because there are times that I'm looking at them like, oi.
I get it. I started smiling on that one. I got you.
But when you weigh it all out, you think to yourself, all right, you're not that bad. You could be worse. They could be worse. I have Mandy, and I have twin boys. I have Carter, and I have Craig. And it's important to point out that I do have good kids. They're really smart. They do have ADHD. All 3 of them have ADHD. And really, all of them had math issues. So to me, I was trying to be vigilant. I was a teacher. So, I knew going into all of this that I really wanted to be up on making sure if there was a diagnosis for them that I was paying attention to it. So my kids are active. My husband and I are together. We are always who's trying to bring them to the different places. My husband does travel a lot, but even when he travels, he'll call during dinner. So we're a very connected family. Mm-hmm. I stopped teaching when we came to Pennsylvania because I knew I had 3 kids with ADHD, and that's a handful. Yeah. And with being out here without family support, I wanted to just kind of focus on them, which made me available to help out in school, be PTO mom, do things like that. When Todd would always be an assistant coach for something, and my kids were involved with everything. Boys were into Cub Scouts, Todd was the leader, baseball, football, wrestling, They did all the plays, they played drums, just constantly going. And everything in my life was normal. And to be honest, I look back and it's I have a life that I was very blessed, that I would think people were envious of. Nice house, nice neighborhood. Mm-hmm. And COVID hit. And so this was back in 2020. And at that point, my boys were 13. My daughter was turned 17. And my daughter got sick with COVID. She was one of the very first cases before we really called it COVID. Because at that point, kids didn't get COVID, we were told.
Yeah.
So it couldn't have been that. And they didn't want to give a test to her because we were so short for tests. But she was very sick for a good month. And my boys did have a fever, for a little bit, but they were never as sick as she was. So I just didn't have time to deal with them because I was in lockdown with her, trying to keep her going. So, and again, in 2020, my boys were in 7th grade. They were in 8th grade. When COVID started, it was 7th grade. When it went through their 8th grade. But Craig had a huge growing spurt. Like, he was all of a sudden one morning 7 inches taller than Carter. And my kids remained as active as they could when the shutdown happened. But we didn't let people in. We didn't let them go into houses or things like that because I was very cautious. Craig had asthma, so I was very concerned if he got this. How sick could he get?
Right, because you watch your daughter go
And my daughter, who was dancing 12 hours a week, couldn't make it up a flight of stairs.
Yeah.
So I was like, he'll die.
Yeah.
Like, that was... So I was strict on, no, you may not go into other people's houses.
Right.
When school was honestly in and out, like, they did whatever the school district said. You know, if it was open, then go for a couple of days and come home. And then we had this choice in October of, do you want to go hybrid or just stay home? And Carter was like, well, I'm good here. I got my couch. You know, we can just stay here and I'm good. And Craig looked at him and said, no, Carter, this isn't good for us. And I looked at him and thought, wow, that's rather mature for a 13-year-old. And he's like, we need to go back. So, you know, they split it for a little bit. And then by the time Thanksgiving came, their entire teaching staff for 8th grade was they were all teaching from home.
Yeah.
And at that point, I was like, well, I'm not going to send you to school to go sit in a cafeteria.
No.
So you might as well stay home now, and you'll go back after the break. Everything seemed fine. My kids kept their bubble. They were going out, playing with friends, and doing things. They were still going to scouts, but they were doing it online. Like, everything they were still doing. And then on December 8th, Todd and I went to go do some errands. We ran to the post office, and I had to go to Costco. And before that, I had taken Carter to go to his tutor, where they would tutor outside just to keep him going. And Craig went to go play wiffle ball, street ball, with his friends. And it was actually kind of strange because it was the first time Craig didn't wait for Carter. He was like, no, I'm just going to go. I got back from taking Carter. Craig came in and said it was too cold to stay. And they were going to go play. One had Xbox, one had PlayStation. So they were going to go play their things for a little bit. And it was like 4:30. So I was like, okay, that's fine. Dad and I are going to run to Costco. We ran out, picked up some stuff, came home. I stopped and got the mail out of the mailbox, walked in the house, and my kids know that when I came home, that you best get out there.
You better help carry groceries in.
That's stuff. So Carter came outside, and I came in, and I was going through the mail, and I was in the middle of opening up their school pictures. And Carter's coming in, and he's getting a little huffy because, you know, one's doing something and the other isn't. God help us. So he's like, I'm going to go find him. So he went, and he said that he went to go exercise, and he went to go look for him. He went downstairs. And I was in the middle of opening up Craig's picture, And I distinctly remember thinking how washed out he looked. Like, it just didn't look like him. And in the middle of looking at this picture, thinking, oh, he's got to have this retaken. I don't like this at all. I heard this horrific scream. And it's one that I never want to hear again. I can't even put it into words. And I looked up to my husband. He looked at me. And I said, you better get down there. I ran and grabbed my cell phone. And as I was running out of the house, my husband, who is as calm can be, screamed a profanity, a very loud one. And I ran. I ran to my neighbor's house. She's a nurse practitioner. And as I was running to her house, I was calling 911 to say, I don't know what happened, but I think my son's dead.
You knew.
I just knew.
Yeah.
And when I literally bursted into my neighbor's house, I said the same thing to her. I think Craig's dead. Mm-hmm. And she looked at me and then took off. Mm-hmm. And I was outside waiting for the ambulance to come. And I don't know what happened.
Yeah.
I had this easygoing kid who was honestly always the peacemaker. He was popular. Mm-hmm. Never heard anybody say anything negative about my son. Mm-hmm. He had just made National Junior Honor Society. He was reaching out to the school to find out, how's it going to work for the play this year? Because I want to try out for it again. He was getting lead roles. Mm-hmm. Nothing fit.
Right. So he was future planning. He was making plans to participate in activities and do things. And
he had asked me to take him the following Sunday back into Bethlehem because he wanted to go back to Christmas Village and walk around. So Sunday we had plans. Mm-hmm. We were getting his skis on Thursday because he learned how to ski last season, and he was really excited to have a season up at Bear Creek.
Yeah. So it just doesn't make sense.
No.
Right.
It will never make sense. He was close with his brother. My kids never fought. Yeah, they would be like, hey, that was my turn. But physical? No.
Yeah.
Not unless they were practicing wrestling. They really did not fight. They were the best of friends, but not like in a weird way.
Yeah.
Because they had other friends.
How long did it take you as a mama to accept that he had died by suicide?
It took me 14 months, give or take.
Hmm.
I was completely... I was going to sue the coroner. I'll be honest. I went a little crazy because there's no way my kid would do something like that. Like, I went into the police station a few weeks after because they wanted to talk to us about Craig. So I was like, you want to know about Craig? I brought in boards of pictures.
Good for you.
I was like, this is Craig. Look at how he is. He has friends. He's always smiling. He's the peacemaker. He's always so calm. This is my kid. And they're like, yeah, well, just so you know, we've cleared you as a suspect. And I was like, you cleared me as a suspect? Like, I walked out and Todd's like, just be quiet. Just walk out. Just come on. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, what the hell are they talking about?
Yeah.
And he's like, do you not understand? And I was like, no. He's like, we're all suspects. Like,
right.
They're investigating this.
Because it was so out of out of the blue and abnormal. And, we talk about mental health. Obviously, this is a mental health podcast. But we talk about sometimes how the puzzle pieces don't always seem to fit.
Correct.
And it's not necessarily a clear science where if this, then this, then this, right? That's not the field of mental health. First of all, I just want to say how sorry I am to you and your husband and your kiddos and the rest of Craig's family for what happened to him and to you guys, and how brave it is of you to tell this story. We've made some strides in the United States over the last couple of years with some suicide numbers coming down. However, I will say that over 49,000 people died by suicide in 2023. And now that's not kids and adolescents only, that's total. Mm-hmm. But, and stats, lag with the CDC. So I think it's like 1 every 11 minutes. I think that's the stat. Yes. Am I right, Nancy?
Yes.
Yeah.
I could tell you as of right now, as of mid-April, I should say, we had 19 deaths just in Lehigh County of suicide.
Mm-hmm. Right. Man.
The year Craig died, he was, in my head, I think he was the 21st, and that was December. Like, the rates are going up. It's just with kids, thankfully, because they're finding 988.
Oh, thank goodness for 988.
I think that's become a huge thing, and we're talking about 988.
Yeah.
So kids get 988.
Mm-hmm.
We are starting to see perhaps some decline there.
Yeah. Right.
Even with the fact that we've taken away the option 3 for LGBTQ+.
Right.
So,
yeah, which I think just because you just mentioned that, what I will say is if there's anybody listening who is looking for a resource, there is something called the Trevor Project.
Yes.
Which is a lifeline for LGBTQ+ youth. And the Trevor Project is a great resource for adolescents and children who are LGBTQ and looking for resources for mental health and suicide prevention.
Absolutely.
So I would say look that up. But the numbers are staggering. And we've said that it before, Crockett, on this podcast. The docs that I work with will tell you all the time, suicide is the most difficult thing to predict in the field of medicine. Period.
Absolutely. They told me that if Craig, all of our counselors, because God knows, we had to go into therapy after Craig died. All of us did. Because I don't think I would have been here if it wasn't, thank God, for therapists. But they said if he was in their office that morning, based on how we've all described him, they wouldn't have known that afternoon. Because he's a kid.
Yeah, what I don't, and I know you don't want to do this either. I don't want to scare parents into thinking, well, I don't see any signs.
Absolutely not.
I think for me, one of the things that I want to say is what's most important when we talk about, well, how do I know how bad it is with my kiddo? The one thing you can control is keeping the conversation open.
Yep.
And asking the question and talking about it.
Absolutely.
Right?
Absolutely.
They're not always going to answer. I mean, I've said it before. Craig was 13 when he passed.
Correct.
Kids, adolescents, prefrontal cortex is under construction, right? It can't process what we can process as adults. Even the smartest kids, their brain is under construction. So you don't know what messaging they're getting from social media, that their construction workers in the prefrontal cortex are putting somewhere it shouldn't be, right? Or they're not able to handle what they're seeing or hearing, but they're not able to verbalize it. And even if you say, hey, how are you? You're going to get the whole fine.
Yep.
I'm fine, right? Because,
Sure.
So this is meant to be a discussion of, how we cope going forward, how you cope going forward now, how your kids are coping going forward, and what you guys have done in response to Craig's death that has been helping other people, right? What is your one key takeaway to other parents who may be listening right now?
I do want to just go back for a second just to say that it's often that kids won't actually, even with the closest of relationships, they don't go to their immediate circle because they often, and they use the word burden. I see the word burden coming up over and over. They don't want to burden the people they love the most because this is a sickness. And their brain is sending them these corrupt messages saying you're just going to add problems to them. They have enough problems. Don't. However, stats show that people will say something in the hours and days just beforehand, but they'll say it to their B friends, their other groups, maybe to a group online. But it'll get out. And I think it's important to keep that in mind, where even if we're having a conversation, our kids need to know, not only can they come to me, but if God forbid there's something going on, they can call 988.
Right.
They have adults. Who are your trusted adults? You're not burdening anybody. And if you're telling a friend, that's why our kids, our friends, they also need to know what the signs are. And if they're concerned about their friend, they need to know how to go about proceeding, not to be a therapist, but to be somebody who's going to help you get to the next step.
Right.
And that's where Todd and I have really tried, Todd, Carter, myself, all of us have tried to focus now, because this is the most devastating pain I can imagine. I don't know how you go through much more of this. No. And you constantly hear, which is really hard for those of us who have survived suicide, that suicide is preventable. So, in my mind, that just adds extra guilt.
Sure.
Because I was his mother, and it was preventable? How? What else could I have done? I was everything.
Right.
But when my mind isn't racing like that, and I can bring it down, I think, well, what does it mean? It means that we have to educate our community.
Yeah.
We have to be able to talk. Everybody should be able to talk. And because I come from education as my background, it seemed like a natural fit to get involved with the Mental Health Club of Edom to make sure that our kids at every grade level have an opportunity to learn how to identify their feelings and to communicate their feelings. So my husband and I are both board members on Edom. I've become QPR trained.
Love that.
And I'm a QPR trained the trainer.
QPR stands for Question, Persuade, Refer. And if anybody has the opportunity to get trained in QPR, I highly recommend it.
We offer free classes. If you go to the Suicide Coalition of Lehigh County, you can send a message. We can come to you.
And if you don't live in Lehigh County, or maybe you're listening from Michigan, you can still reach out to them. And they can help to connect you.
Absolutely. And it's typically free.
Yeah.
So you take advantage. It's an hour and a half, 2 hours, and it might be the most important hour and a half of your life.
What do you think is the most important thing you teach in QPR?
The direct questioning.
Yep. I was hoping you were going to say that. I agree.
Think that is so hard to look into anybody's eyes to say, are you thinking about ending your life?
Yeah.
Are you thinking about suicide? Not are you going to hurt yourself?
Right.
Because in somebody's mind, especially when they're sick, they're going to think, well, it's not going to hurt. The method I've had, I'm not. So you don't ask, are you thinking of hurting yourself? Because that could also mean something like cutting.
Right.
Which is a different coping skill.
Right.
Not necessarily tied
to suicidal ideation, no.
So you have to use direct language.
You do. You have to ask the question.
So it has to be, it's important to start the question, to start the conversation about what are you feeling? Where are you going with this? Listening, using listening ears and your skills. And if it's not adding up to you, then be direct.
Right. Yeah. I agree. I think that's the message that society needs to take. And you don't have to know what to do with that. You have to, as a human being, unless you're clinically trained, it is not your job to fix that. It's my job to fix that. But it's not your job to fix that. It's your job to know 988, to know 911 if you forget 988.
Yep.
To know that there's county crisis lines that you can call, where county crisis will come do welfare checks on people. And to know that if you're a kiddo and you need help, you go to a trusted adult.
Yep. And, if you're the person, because inside your head, you're asking this question, but then you're thinking, please don't say it. Please don't say it. Please don't say it. I don't want you to, I don't want to hear this. You don't want that answer, but you have to also then kind of take a deep breath and say, okay, can I stay with you? I don't want to leave you. Mm-hmm. Let's talk about this. I'm concerned. Mm-hmm. And let the person know that you're not judging them.
Right.
You don't respond back saying, well, that's a stupid idea.
Right.
And you don't phrase it as a double negative where you say, well, you're not going to kill yourself, right? Mm-hmm. Because you're putting the answer in their mouth.
You never want to ask. You want to ask open-ended questions. You don't want to give them a question. You don't want to give them the ability to just kind of not answer or nod their head or shake their head. But again, I think what's really important is that communities make this conversation as normal as asking how are your sugar levels, right? What's your blood pressure? Have you gotten that under control? I could sit at lunch with you, Crockett, and say, what's going on with your blood pressure, dude? And you wouldn't think anything of it if we're friends, right? But it needs to be as normal for me to say, I'm concerned about you.
Yeah.
And I want to know if you're thinking about ending your life.
Exactly. And what makes it really hard is you go online and you read these warriors, these keyboard warriors who ridicule anybody who's trying to reach out, especially men.
Yeah, well, the suicide rates in general are higher for men and boys.
Absolutely. Mm-hmm. And we live in a culture where we're all expected to keep it together all the time. And that's just not reality.
No.
And we're not kind to our neighbors. If somebody is saying, I'm struggling, people shouldn't be laughing at them.
Or closing the blinds.
Right.
And saying, not my problem.
That's not my problem.
Right.
This is everybody's problem.
Yeah, which is why school districts now have apps like Safe to Say, where, and a lot of them throughout the country do now, where kids can report stuff they're seeing or hearing that they're worried about anonymously, right?
And they do.
And they
it's
do.
Used.
Yeah. It's phenomenal.
It really is. And I know for a fact, Craig actually had made a few reports himself.
Did he?
He did. Because he was always worried about other people.
Yeah.
And he would come home and say, I'm concerned. This kid said something about, well, it doesn't matter because I'm not going to be here on Monday. And I was like, you moving? And he said, no. He's like, and I just thought the conversation was weird, Mom. Mm-hmm. So I didn't know what to do. So I called Safe to Say.
Amazing. Amazing.
And they're taught this.
Yeah.
Thank God.
Yeah.
That the schools are educating them in that aspect.
Yeah. Go ahead.
I want to come back, Nancy. You had mentioned, thank God for therapists. And again, I want to reiterate, thank you so much for sharing your story. The courage of you and your family I can't say enough words about the courage in sharing your story. For people listening who are struggling right now, what would you want them to hear? Because we talk so much on this show about the community that is. The people in the circle, the people who have been in familiar situations, the therapists, you said it yourself, God bless the therapists, people like Amie. We've had wonderful folks at St. Luke's Penn Foundation on this show to talking about all different things from all different walks of life. If someone is struggling right now, what would you want them to hear?
Reach out. There's a warm line, 988. As tough as financial matters are right now, I think therapists and social workers are the most empathetic people on the face of this earth. And honestly, they don't think about money as much as you think they do. That's why they're in that field, because they're definitely not going to be rolling in the bucks. There are many out there that are accepting clients, that understand that they need to work with you. There's sliding scales. They will work with you if you don't have insurance.
Yeah.
There are walk-in places.
We have a walk-in center in Lehighton 24/7.
Yep.
No questions asked. Go.
Just go. Don't let anything stop you. It might just be you need to talk. There are different types of therapies. If you've tried a therapist and you're like, oh, I went once and it was weird and I didn't like it, well, think about it like speed dating. You're not going to completely give up dating because you went out on one bad date with a guy or a girl or whatever.
That's a fantastic analogy. I love that.
You know, like, go, try it again. Keep trying until you find the person that clicks with you. It's a trial and error.
Yep.
And it doesn't, I mean, you might need medication to help, but you might not.
Right.
It doesn't, and even if you do need the medication, it's okay.
Right.
It's okay to take medication.
Right. And sometimes people are like, I don't want to go to a new therapist because I don't tell my story again. Go tell your story again. Tell it again. Please. And again and again. Generally, it doesn't take long to find the right therapy match. For the most part, those of us that are in professional organizations get it right pretty often from the beginning. But don't give up, I think is your point. If you didn't like it once, try again.
You go to psychologytoday.com and you can read people's bios and feel like, oh, I kind of align with this person. Yeah. Do something.
Yeah.
But don't just sit in it.
Right.
Being proactive. Maybe that's the answer to this question. I'll ask it that being proactive for anyone, I think, is an excellent, certainly as we're having this conversation, just an excellent source of information is be active in how you respond or, go for your own treatment, whether that's a therapist or talking to somebody close to you. Nancy, how can others honor your son's memory in a positive and meaningful way? I think being proactive is certainly a good one, but does anything else come to mind for you?
We have a scholarship for my son. Everything I do every day right now, I dedicate to my son because his book isn't closed. Maybe he's not the author anymore, but I've picked up the pen. His twin has picked up the pen. His sister has picked up the pen, and his father. And so we will go out into the community, do something kind for somebody. My kid was a kind kid. He was always looking to help other people. Do something positive. Help somebody out who you see is struggling. And it can be in any way, shape, or form.
Do a small act of kindness for Craig.
Exactly.
That's how you can honor him.
That's exactly.
Yeah.
If you're not feeling 100%, say something. Go to somebody. Do it.
Yeah.
That's just, we have to honor Craig on his anniversary date. We have a sporting good drive where people they either buy new or they're very gently loved different sports equipment, and sometimes we'll take clothes and shoes and we'll go into downtown Allentown and we'll just set up on a corner and just
hand it out.
Here you go. Here, you want a ball? You want a hula hoop? Do you want, lacrosse stick? Whatever. Just, here you go. And kids come from all over. We do it just before Christmas. We've done that now for 5 years. I think we've given away like 4,000 different pieces of material of sporting goods. Like I said, we have a scholarship that we honor him with. My son brought a VEDM into the East Penn School District. My husband and I sit on the VEDM board. I am a SAP liaison, Student Assistance Program liaison. So I walk into schools and my job is to help whatever it is that is a barrier between a student and success. Sometimes they need a bed. Sometimes, it's that their parent has died.
Right.
And you can't expect somebody who just had a huge loss be able to walk into school the next day and understand algebra.
Right. Yeah. What you do is phenomenal in the SAP world, in the schools, for sure. I think, another, to piggyback on that, just a stat that I think is staggering that I don't think people really understand is that that 60.3% of youth with major depression don't receive treatment. 60. So that's 6 out of 10 kids with depression not getting any form of help.
Yeah.
There's help in the schools. There's help in your faith community, if you have a faith community. There's help by texting or calling 988. It's everywhere. Don't be afraid to get help, because 6 out of 10 kids are going it alone.
And I think it's also very important to point out that suicide averages between the second leading cause of death for kids between the ages of 10 and 25. And sometimes it drops to the third, depending on its accidents, sometimes gun violence. But and sometimes it's intermixed for it. But it's a bigger crisis than we realize. Second, third leading cause of death for 10-year-olds.
Yeah.
10. That puts you at fourth grade.
Babies.
That you're third or fourth grade and you're dying by suicide. And it happens everywhere. There is no immune area. And I think it's really important to point out, too, that if you do have ADHD, it has comorbidities. It's a mental health condition for a reason. Anxiety and depression go along with it. I focused on the educational part. Yeah, Craig, he was my more anxious out of my kids. But he was anxious for what I considered good reasons. He had a test coming up. He was anxious about trying out for something. He was anxious about a game coming. Like, I thought it was normal. I didn't realize that the anxiety was as deep as it was because I wasn't ready to hear it.
Yeah.
And that's something that I regret, that I think that in my head, maybe he was trying to give me signs that I wasn't ready to hear. And that's very hard.
Yeah. And that's something that, you're every day by educating yourself, educating others, doing a podcast like this, talking to a therapist, talking to your doctors are, I hope, figuring out a way to give yourself grace with that, because it's not your fault.
It's one of those things that you can say to yourself, the answers. It's not your fault. But at the end of the day, I'm still a mom.
I know.
And the saying that they have about you're only as happy as your saddest child is so true. And so I do hold on to the guilt. But when I let it go, when I stop and I put myself in, a better place and I say, okay, come on.
Yeah.
You did what I could do. I did everything I could with what I knew at the time.
Right. What is helpful for you to hear? Like, what's helpful for you to hear from me, or what's not helpful?
Honestly, I appreciate when people bring Craig up.
Okay.
I appreciate when they want to talk.
Yeah.
And people look at you, and sometimes I'll start to cry, and they're like, "I'm so sorry. I didn't mean to make you upset." No, you don't understand. You didn't make me upset. Craig kind of did.
Yeah.
It's not you.
Right. It's just,
I am always
it's your truth. Yeah.
I'm 1 inch away from crying.
Yep.
And if you can bring something, if you can tell me, hey, this happened and we were thinking about Craig and we're remembering this story,
that helps him live on.
It does.
Yeah.
The more you talk about him, the more I know he's still with us.
Yeah.
And that makes me feel better. Because again, I don't have to be the only author in his book.
I love that.
And it makes me feel like you still remember him. I'm so happy. Thank you.
Yeah.
And if I happen to cry, then honestly, you should be honored because I found that I don't have to wear my mask with you. It's
Makes
a
sense.
release.
I want to reiterate some of the resources we discussed this morning, just some of them, safe to say. 988, the Trevor Project, St. Luke's Penn Foundation, obviously, if you're looking for someone to talk to, an excellent resource of information. Nancy, to you, the whole Salamon family, I can't thank you enough for trusting us with this story and to have this conversation with us. But I know I speak for Amie, myself, the whole crew here, sending so much love to you and your family and for Craig. And just thank you for trusting us to be a resource to give people some information. So thank you so much.
Absolutely. Thank you.
For Amie, Alanson, Dundon, I'm Kevin Crockett. I want to thank you all for joining us for the Just Start the Conversation podcast. It's brought to you by the St. Luke's Penn Foundation. Please visit stluke'spennfoundation.org. Thank you so much. It's the Just Start the Conversation podcast.